In 2019, the Art Academy of Cincinnati celebrated 150 years of teaching generations of talented people from around the region the finer points of artistry. Studio drawing, sculpture, dance, and design have been taught by the school since its origins in Eden Park. Today, we celebrate the Art Academy by the best way we know how, telling ghost stories. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities presents the Hometown Haunts podcast. I am your host, Kat Loco, and along with me on this spooky journey through the strange and unusual world we live in are Jen Kohler and Christina Wald. They'll be with us in just a second. You can stay up to date with us and our show by following us at Cin Cabinet Curio on Twitter and at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram, and join our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts. Of course, we're dying to hear about your personal encounters with the paranormal and fringe history from your neck of the woods, so please send it to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com or join and share it on our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts. You can find our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can watch the show feed on YouTube by finding us by searching Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities. Please take a moment to rate and review us on all these platforms so other spooky history lovers just like yourself can find the show. Link in show notes. And we've been playing with the video, so now we have the nifty Sedamsville Rectory, thanks to Christina, going on at the same time as our little informational ticker on the show. So, yay, check us out on YouTube if you haven't seen us. You get to see my messy, messy room and Christina's not so messy, and Jen with a cat. So, yay. We've got some advocacy alerts. So, we don't have too much going with show news right now, but we do have two important things we wanted to highlight for on this week's episode. So the first one is to protect trans youth, stop House Bill 68 here in Ohio, known as the Saving Adolescents from Experimentation or the SAFE Act. The bill is the newest iteration of a legislative attempt to restrict gender affirming care offered in Ohio. If you are in Ohio and believe that gender affirming care is important, please contact your representatives in Ohio to vote no on this thing. The ACLU has a contact form in place for you to use should you be so angry you don't know what to say, but you want to express that you're mad. They have a form for that. We at Hometown Haunts and the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities support our LGBTQIA friends and family and know you always have a place with us that's safe. So, we have a link in the show notes for the ACLU form to take action against this extremely atrocious, stupid bill that they keep trying to put on the stupid House floor. So, okay, showing my colors a little bit there. So, the other bit of advocacy is for the Hoffman School in Evanston, which is a neighborhood here in Cincinnati. It is threatened with demolition. A developer wants to raise the historic school and build a 155-unit apartment complex in its space, eliminating not only the history of the school, but also the valuable urban green space that surrounds it. The developer does not want to reuse the school building to make into apartments, although this has been successfully done more than a dozen times around the city. Quoting quoting the Cincinnati Preservation Society, where did my link just go? The building has been a central nexus for the larger community for over 100 years. In fact, it's 101 years old. This is the school where the neighborhood children went to Cincinnati Public School until it closed in 2012. Since then, it has continued to operate its various community capacities, most recently as a nonprofit school and church. The Evanston community is a diverse neighborhood with a rich history, especially associated with the Black experience. Hoffman School's population over its life has reflected the demographics of the community. The demolition of the school will erase site associated with the history of Cincinnati's Black community. So what we can do is write letters to support the building and to keep the developer from raising it. And we have a link to the cincinnatipreservation.org with all the different contacts who you need to contact and by when. We are trying to make the Hoffman School basically a historic landmark. It has gone up for special recognition several times in recent memory, and for some reason, it keeps not getting the special recognition. So we're trying to make it a historic landmark here in Cincinnati and then hopefully preserve it. It is beautiful. It was built by the same company, Hannaford and Sons, that did the Cincinnati Music Hall and the observatory. So just architecturally, not even looking at the community, but we do want to look at that community. It has a lot of importance. It boils me to see this happen. It's a beautiful landmark. We've lost so much on the east side already, just like we've lost so much on the west side and the central areas, and we're trying to keep this. People are being much louder about it now that this guy just wants to just bulldoze it and put 155 units instead, and they're going to be ugly and look like boxes, like the monstrosity that's being built near my house. So, sources for tonight's show.
Yay.
There were a lot. So, the About section of the Art Academy of Cincinnati's website, Art Academy, Art Academy of Cincinnati 150, Make Art, Make Difference. This wonderful book written by Jeff Cease. Ta-da. There we go. Yeah. Let's see. Where am I? Cincinnati City Beat, Taft Art Museum, Cincinnati Magazine, Cincinnati Biz Courier, and photos from the Mary R. Schiff Library and Archive and the Cincinnati Enquirer. So, in June 2019, the Art Academy of Cincinnati hosted a huge block party to celebrate its 150th birthday on Jackson Street in Over the Rhine. It was a massive art show meets block party that highlighted the future of the art in the Queen City with 30 micro exhibits along the street. We spent the first 6 months of this year celebrating our past, says Amanda Parker Woolley, the Academy's Director of Marketing and Enrollment, in an interview with City Beat. Now we're looking towards the future. I don't know why I gave her that voice, but I did. Throughout the year, the Art Academy and other creative partners around the city, such as the Taft Art Museum, Contemporary Art Center, and Wave Pool. Let's see. But we're going to talk about the early days. In the early 1800s, Cincinnati was a growing city with a growing art scene as well, influencing sculptor Hiram Powers and the wildlife painter John James Audubon, the namesake of the Audubon Society. Sculptor Frank Eckstein tried to create a Cincinnati Academy of Fine Arts in 1828, but their fundraising art show only attracted 150 visitors in the 6 weeks it was held, and in the end, they didn't raise enough to pay for the doorman or the candles used to light the exhibit. Poor Frank. It was ultimately the city's society women who started the process of creating an art academy in 1854. Sarah Worthington King Parker organized a group of 18 ladies that included the wives of many of the area's biggest businessmen, such as Nicholas Longworth, Reuben Springer, and John Kilgore. These ladies formed the Ladies Academy of Fine Arts, or the LAFA, to aid in the cultivation of public taste, in addition to adding to the intellectual enjoyment of the arts. Peters went to Europe to acquire plaster casts and copies of many of Europe's greatest sculptures and art pieces, and since those resources simply had not made it to Cincinnati yet, and most students could not afford to travel. Of course, the economic challenges brought on by the Civil War ultimately forced the group to disband in 1864 because it was a tough time for everyone. Talking about the Civil War, Charles McMicken, a wealthy merchant and slave owner, upon his death in 1858, willed $1 million and his property to the city of Cincinnati with the express purpose to establish 2 colleges for, and I quote, white boys and girls. Yeah. His family contested the will because they didn't want $1 million leaving the family. And after a lengthy litigation, the courts found in favor of Cincinnati. The McMicken School of Design was established in 1869, and ignoring McMicken's request in one instant, the Academy admitted people of color into its student body since the very beginning. In the Academy's early years, it was a department at the University of Cincinnati up until 1887. After that, it became the teaching school for the Cincinnati Museum of Art and was located next to the Art Museum in Eden Park. Their early histories intertwine quite a bit since the same administration ran both institutions as they sat side by side in large brick buildings in Eden Park. Frank Duveneck, Elizabeth Nourse, Charlie and Eddie Harper, and Tom Wisselman are just a few of the widely recognized artists associated with the Academy. And going back to Jeff's book, it has a great description of every single artist who has made notable work and impact described in the book, which is a great resource. But there are so many. This particular podcast would be 6 hours long, just talking about all the different artists. So we're just going to highlight that particular group. Frank Duveneck was an instructor at the Academy, and in 1905 was made the chairman of of faculty there. He was an incredible American artist known for his vigorous brushwork and dark-toned realism for both figure and landscape paintings, and was cited as the greatest talent of the brush of his generation. His works are an anchor of the Art Museum Cincinnati wing, and Duveneck was a popular instructor of oil painting at the Academy, continuing his popularity and bohemian style among his peers since the early days as an instructor for other institutions in the 1870s here in Cincinnati. He led the Academy until his death in 1919. Commercial art rose in the 1930s, spurred on by many local big companies using graphic design for attractive advertising, such as little soap company known as Procter & Gamble, the Brookwood Pottery, Gibson Greetings, and Strobridge Lithography. There we go. The Academy focused more on practical arts of design, bringing the Academy full circle in its mission. More design courses, graphic design, illustration, photography, fashion design, and scenery design for television were new courses introduced to the curriculum. These were the years of Charlie and Edith or Eddie Harper, who met while they sat next to each other in a life drawing class at the Academy in 1940. They married several years later and in 1947. Both Charlie and Eddie were greatly influenced by their instructor's abstract art and became fantastic modern pop artists themselves. Charlie was an instructor for the Academy from 1950 to 1978, while Eddie continued her photography and silkscreen printing. Charlie Harper became known for his minimal abstract nature illustrations, stripping the subjects down to their simplest possible visual terms without losing their visual identity. In 1998, the Academy legally separated from the Art Museum and became an independent college of art and design. In 2005, they relocated to 1212 Jackson Street in OTR, formerly known as the Pembroke Building. In reality, the new Art Academy building is actually two former factory buildings in OTR, joined together by a soaring atrium and crisscross series of stairs. It is a very industrial and urban design, a stark contrast to the warm wood tones and the stone steps of the old building sitting on the hilltop at Eden Park. But before the Academy moved, the Pembroke building was home to Cincinnati's first microbrewery, Barrel House Brewery. Opened in 1995, it was a haven for beer and music lovers in the region. In 2005, the name and equipment were purchased by Hat Trick Incorporated and moved to Heritage Brewing Company on Liberty Street in the West End. This move wasn't without controversy, however. When the Art Academy purchased the old buildings, Barrel House Brewery had been a tenant for a decade and on the first floor of the Pembroke building and had a lease there until 2013. The brewery and Art Academy went to court about the lease, ultimately deciding to coexist in the building together. However, while the Academy was renovating the buildings, Barrel House was put up for sale and purchased, and then moved out very swiftly. In 2010, Barrel House Brewing Company closed in the West End due to competition with the Cincinnati beer market. And that is the last I heard of them. So I don't know what happened. If anyone knows, please tell me. The Art Academy moving to Jackson Street marked the rebuilding and rebranding of the Over the Rhine neighborhood in the early aughts. Although faculty was first nervous about the safety of the location, the move prompted a neighborhood renaissance with the entire area having flourished with a new creative life. Just a block away from them is the headquarters for ArtsWave, plus OTR is the focus for many other creative endeavors such as the Blink Festival and the No Theater. Of course, with the long history of the Art Academy, has built over the years, there are naturally a few ghosts.
Is there much lore about who started the Art Academy beyond the ladies and it being part of the?
So it kind of goes back to the bohemian lifestyle of with Duveneck. He was and then also the artist that did all of Lucario Hearn's illustrations for their
Mm.
glass spy glasses
Mm-hmm.
newsletter. Yeah,
Giglance.
there was a core of men who were very bohemian together. Uh Duveneck was really well known because he was mostly raised in Germany. He had a very and went to school and taught there. He has a very and at the time Germany was the center of arts
Mm-hmm.
before 1900. He had a very bohemian look about him. So when he came back to Cincinnati, he was instantly popular with all the alternative kids. All the hipsters wanted to be him.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of that group existed, but the people that had money who put
Well, yes.
together the school were the society ladies who needed a hobby, and they liked art. They wanted to do more art. They wanted to have their kids do art, and so they managed to get, I guess, their husbands to pay for their hobby, eventually turning it into the fine arts school. I'm reading a lot into that.
Well, famously, Duveneck was one of the few painters that would teach female students.
Yeah, and it's fun looking through all the old photos of seeing all the female students there. They were there
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning, just like people of color were there from the very beginning. No one was turned away from the art academy. If you wanted to know art, by George, you could go in and learn it.
If but I believe I thought Greg Hand had said that a bunch of the people that started the Art Academy were theosophists as well.
Yeah, it's. I think we also talked about it during the Lafcadio Hearn episode,
Okay,
and
okay. I thought so.
yeah, I will just say in the actual resources that I looked up the history, that doesn't get mentioned at all.
Mhm.
So
Well,
that is,
like what I said, it might be an off the record kind of.
yeah, it's a fringe history moment.
Yeah, I mean that's something more in Greg Hand's
Yeah,
wheelhouse.
yeah,
This sort of between the lines, because one thing we found doing this show is there's of course official history, and people aren't always necessarily wanting their narrative to contain anything unusual.
yeah. You're not wrong, Christina. It's there was that theosophist side of the art academy, but we're kind of looking at it from it being created from two different angles. We had the instructors and people who were actual artists who were making art and living off of that, and then the people who were super interested in art and wanted to support those artists, so they created the art academy.
Well, most of these institutions don't exist without injections of cash from
Yeah,
wealthy families. That's
yeah,
always been the case, and probably is a very there's a very robust history of all institutions having endowments from rich families and that sort of thing.
yeah,
And you see their names everywhere
yeah.
you go. In Cincinnati, there's a couple really big.
And I do want to say this is a very abbreviated history of the art academy because, like I said, we just don't have 6 hours to go through everything.
Hmm.
There was a lot of contention with the Micken endowment, and basically going back a little bit to because I know I ran through that history. Um, so McMicken did the initial $1 million endowment for the colleges, and
Hmm.
in Cincinnati basically went, well, we're going to have it for everyone, not just select few. But other than that, thanks for the money. And the McMicken family did try to get that money back because they didn't want it being used by the city and they wanted their property back,
Hmm.
but the city won out. So that was a really big dispute back in 1958 and or 1858, and it actually caused the college to be delayed in building up until 1869.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's why you have that huge time difference of over a decade because that's how long they were in court and trying to appeal all the stuff. So
Hmm.
after that, right before the Civil War, when you have the ladies group, they where was she? Um, Sarah Worthington King Peter was the woman in 1854 to make that group of ladies, the society ladies. Her son actually was the one who managed to work with the Longworth family to actually build the rest of the academy. So
Oh,
in the
wow.
end, the Longworth family put more money into the art academy than did McMicken. So that's why eventually McMicken was dropped from the name, because
Hmm.
the endowment had run out and they wanted a much more positive name associated with the university and the
Hmm.
department. So, but it was Sarah's son who actually did all that legwork to get all those endowments and grants to be able to build and expand the school and all the departments that were taught. I do find,
Interesting.
yeah, so that was it's a very long, and Jeff's book goes into it far deeper than we will for this podcast, but there was a lot of money that changed hands, a lot of money that changed hands, and now we have the school. Is that Clover?
It's,
And I'm sure there's a lot of great ghost stories along the way too. I mean,
Yeah,
our
Duveneck
students are
has a
into
famous ghost story from that
that. Oh,
is involved with the art museum, not with the art academy.
do
So,
tell.
well, it has to do with Lizzie and his wife, and I'm going to do the broad strokes of this, and eventually we'll go into the more meatier bit for a different show on the art museum. But Lizzie was his wife. She came from a very wealthy Boston or East Coast family. They had met for a while when he was out east. They knew each other for years. He moved to Berlin, or at least Germany, to teach. She found him there, and the two of them fell in love, and over the course of 6 years they finally got married, just shy of his 40th birthday. They had one son together. They were married for about 2 years, and then she died. So, yeah, it's just like,
that's
dang,
so
timing
sad.
is very
It
sad.
was
So
very sad.
yeah. So he had a very intricate memorial sculpted for her, and a cast of it is at the museum, the art museum, and it's in his display area in the Cincinnati area. It's Lizzie sleeping,
Hmm.
and the original is marble in Florence, Italy, I believe. So what's spooky is that people who are in the Duveneck area of the museum, if it's quiet and they're around this memorial for her, they will hear a woman's voice softly saying, Frank, Frank.
Oh,
So
Aw.
that is a ghost that it has been reported at the Cincinnati Museum, Art Museum.
I saw that
Since,
sculpture.
yeah, it's still
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
So it's one of many different ghosts. There are 13 different ghosts that lurk
Whoa.
around the museum, but that's for a
Hmm.
different podcast episode.
Well, and I suppose the two are intertwined since it was attached to the art museum for so long.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I mean, obviously that was it's very common for art museums to have art schools or altiers around them because you could do master copies and that sort of thing. And so I'm sure people saw ghosts. And the story about his wife, and I can't remember. I think she got ill. I think didn't
Yeah,
she get?
she died of pneumonia, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
super
interesting
sad.
because in light of our discussion before this, I remember when I was taking my oil painting the figure, and some of the pictures you saw, life drawing classes used to not be permitted in schools
Hmm.
because of
Hmm.
local law. I mean, obviously they didn't want you drawing naked people.
Oh
Um,
no,
I
not
know,
naked people.
and finally
Not like we
schools
don't
were
see
allowed to
ourselves
do
every
that.
day in the mirror.
Well, in light of that, Michelangelo's David in Florida, where
Yeah, that
parents
thing.
were afraid of their kids seeing it. I mean,
I will
Oh my
say,
gosh, a penis!
it in defense of the school, it was only 2 parents that complained,
uh-huh.
but it made enough of a brouhaha for that principal to be forced out of her role.
Well,
But
that's
the
why.
city of Florence has invited her to come look at the actual statue of David.
Yeah.
Well, if that's what it takes to get a free invitation,
I
then
guess
heck,
so.
I'm
Seriously.
gonna.
Yeah. But we're getting off track.
Yeah, we're getting
So
way off track. But
the
but I mean, yeah, there a lot of these art schools, and that's, like, I'm sure there was a lot during the spiritualism period and stuff. A lot of students probably were interested in that, and that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
segues into our hauntings
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
So,
because when the school was founded was when spiritualism was running high, and
mhm.
seances were probably a daily occurrence there. So, Christina, you've actually gathered some ghost stories from
I
friends
do.
and students.
And I know we have a lot of Art Academy alumni that listen to this show. So if you have a personal ghost story, we have a bunch of other college ones. So we might do a college ghost episode in the future because we got so many. It seems like many people have. I would think that there would be a lot of energy around schools, a lot of transient people.
Well, I did write a book about that.
Yes, Kat wrote a book about it, and
But it was
so,
about IU, not
but
about
but
this
but
one.
one thing you found writing these books perhaps is that everything's ubiquitous. Like all schools have lore,
Oh,
and
yeah, and a lot of them have the exact same lore, but that is, again, a topic for a different episode.
yes, I know this feels like it's a starter
We're
of a lot of
teasing
things.
everybody.
So we do have a recording that we're going to play. This is Laura. She has taught ceramics at the Art Academy, and we've worked with her before on May the 4th. And this is her experience. She was nice enough to record what happened to her.
So I've never really believed in ghosts and supernatural things, and I usually have a pretty good reason for what the noises are that I hear. And I don't see things out of the corner of my eye very often. But I now teach at the Art Academy of Cincinnati. In the basement, I have the ceramics class. And my classroom, we just started teaching in this room a year and a half ago. And I have a back office area that every single time I walk past it, out of the corner of my eye, I see this little girl over and over and over. and then I turn around and look and nobody's in there. And I thought maybe I was crazy, but over and over and over I see this. So I just ignore it and I think, oh, that's funny. That's that shelf, or that's that, weird thing that I'm seeing. It's no big deal. So then one day I'm walking out of my classroom area and up, there's a giant staircase that goes through the middle of the building. And of course there's like a breeze that comes straight down there. Nothing supernatural, just really cold air, and it was winter. And I was standing there with this crazy cold breeze coming through the thing. And somebody who works for the school was coming downstairs towards me. And he said, see, it's always cold here. And I was like, right, is it supernatural? Is it haunted? Or is it just really cold? Or I said, is it haunted, or is it a like breezeway through the building? And he looked at me and he said, oh, it's haunted. Don't you know it's haunted? And I said, are you serious? And he's like, the whole basement is haunted. And I said, okay, cool. Thanks. And after I left the basement that day, I went home and I told everybody about it. And I was like, there is a girl in the thing and it's haunted. And fine, I'll go ahead and embrace that. And I've never seen her again. I think she just wanted me to acknowledge her. She just wanted me to see her, tell people that she was there, and then move on with her journey. So that's my ghost story about the basement of the Art Academy of Cincinnati. Thanks.
That was
my
good.
God, that was great. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Yeah. And she told it so well.
Yes.
It's kind of sad that the little girl went away, though.
Oh, I'm sure the little girl's still there. Sorry, Laura. And that's where I regret not being able to find more information about these buildings other than they were factories. I don't know what they made. I don't know when they were built, because when I tried to find them in the historical records, there were no records that were kept in where I looked, which was the auditor's office. So, and also looking for any information using the old newspaper searches, I mostly just found help wanted ads for the brewery that was there. So I didn't find much, which just doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means they're not digitized yet. And unfortunately, I did not have time to go to the actual archive. So I can't tell you who was in those buildings other than they made something. And that is very spooky to have a little girl in the basement. But I'm glad she didn't do anything or scare Laura. But I do wonder how many other
Mhm.
students saw her, and then how many
Mhm.
other students are like me who just see the dead and went, "Huh, what's this 6-year-old doing making pottery?" But I
It
mean,
Or
is.
just watching
There's
me
eight
make
o'clock at
pottery.
night.
there are students studios down there too, so I'm sure
Ooh,
there's many stories of late nights working there and seeing things. And if anyone has any, please let us know because we'd
yeah.
be really curious
Mhm.
to know if you've seen anything. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it adds to the richness. I mean, not only factories but people live there. I mean, that whole area is very has been very populated, and it's just on
Been
the street from when we were at Arnold's too. I
yeah.
mean, all of those
Mhm.
areas
Yeah.
have tales to
Yeah.
tell.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
I can guarantee you the stuff that they probably experience, excuse me, cold spots, things moving on their own, things breaking unexpectedly, and, maybe if they are not expecting it, voices,
mhm,
unidentified voices. But, yeah, if you have
I
stories like
will
Christina asked, send them in.
say the one time we went, Christina with Urban Sketchers, and I was walking around taking pictures, it was kind of
uh-huh,
eerie just with the student. Nobody was there that day, really.
yes,
So we
mhm,
got to kind of walk around and see all the empty studios, even though there was stuff there. And yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind of
I've been up in
cool.
some of the students' studios for, when I would be asked to guest teach the comic group, the
mhm,
comic
mhm,
class. So I would that class is always really late at night, 6 PM, super late.
mhm,
And always around November when we come in to do the guest lecturing.
mhm,
And so I will go in and I always felt really weird in there. I'm just like, this place has more of a story to tell than what all this new facade is letting on.
of course,
And
yes,
when going through there, um I have a strong suspicion it was a textile factory, at least where these particular rooms were, because I got the same kind of feeling I do when I visit Rhode Island and some of the old textile mills there. It was not necessarily young kids working, but a lot of feminine energy working,
mhm,
and just in these rooms. It was like this was a larger room at one time. This is only divided recently, and there was a lot of machinery there. But I was just also trying to hold a conversation with people without looking like I was completely nuts or stoned, one or the
Well, if
other.
there's any place you could be and you wouldn't have to worry about that, it would be there because it's all artists and art students, and
They get it. Yeah.
We all
they
be
do, they
crazy,
do.
man.
And a lot of them would be super excited to know. I mean, whereas some institutions might be afraid to admit they have ghosts, I think many students there would be
Mhm.
really excited about it.
I'm actually surprised they haven't had a ghost-themed exhibition yet.
They should. We should
Yeah,
suggest it.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, Art Academy friends that are listening, I think this ghost exhibition is something we should do.
Let's bring the
Um,
seances back.
exactly. And
Do
speaking of seances and stuff, that segues into one of my students said, and I have this in the notes, that there are notorious Ouija board parties in the freshman dorm. And she says she was not a part of them, but if you were a part of one, tell us if you have any juicy stories of things that happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that seems like something really like when I was a freshman in college, no Ouija boards, just partying. But it
mm,
would have been cool if there had been Ouija boards. I mean, I guess that's the difference between art school and going to like a regular university, perhaps.
would that be a
There's other
sorority
differences
house
too.
thing?
It's
Ouija
Well,
whenever
board?
there's
somebody's interested in the dark arts.
Mm,
well, I mean, I think there is that, but when you're a freshman in the dorms of any university, you're usually not in the sorority house yet. Partially, perhaps, but
oh, okay.
um, you know, and,
I
I'm not
wasn't
saying there's
one,
people that
so
aren't interested in that, but I think a lot of times art students tend to be a little bit more open to a lot of that sort of thing.
hmm
That is true.
agreed. Hmm.
And especially some of the people of fame that have come from Art Academy, like Lafcadio Hearn and Duveneck, and some of the people
Hmm.
that have come from there.
Yeah. Or the backbone of the
And
beginnings
I
of the
think
Art
when we
Academy.
did our art club episode,
Yeah.
we they talked about stuff they'd seen in the art, and many of those people that are in the art club went to Art Academy.
Yeah, so you're right, there's that episode too, ties heavily together. So the Lafcadio Hearn, the art club episode, this
Definitely making a
episode,
playlist. That's all I'm
and
saying.
yeah, and our future Taft history museum, art museum, all these
Yes,
are linked together. It's basically the same group of people just going,
exactly.
"Hey everyone, let's do a séance over at Lafcardio's house."
Yes, and actually looking at some of the other in the libraries too, like the Mercadal Library, and what's the other library that Lloyd Library has some very interesting collections.
Yeah.
A lot of people do research there, and I believe do they still have a residency of some sort? They used to. I don't like where you could study, or a lot of our libraries have that sort of thing.
I don't know.
So, there's a lot of different places around town that you could tie into this topic.
Oh yeah. So, on to Melissa.
This is from Melissa. I swear I heard footsteps walking along with me up the stairs in the Eden Park campus of the old Art Academy of Cincinnati location. I was alone, but could have been just the acoustics.
Ooh.
Footsteps are always
I doubt
creepy.
she was alone. Sorry,
I doubt
Melissa.
so either.
Yeah.
That was I'm sad that you did. Either of you ever see the old Art Academy building before it was assimilated?
No, assimilated like it was the
Assimilated.
pork. Sorry. I'm thinking of the art museum just kind of coming apart, coming over, and then just like
Well,
grabbing
the
in.
new section is awfully square. I'm just saying.
It is. But sorry, it is. Oh my goodness, Star Trek humor. No, I did not. We did not live in Cincinnati at the time, so this was all learning experience while researching it. And man, I feel like I missed out on a lot.
It was fun.
I've
taking
only known
classes
it
there.
as it is now. Huh?
I
Yeah.
enjoyed taking classes there. I think it was like the early 2000s. I took a couple of painting classes there and really enjoyed it. And I was sad when they moved, but I see why they did it, because it
Yeah.
wasn't very big at all. I mean, even now the school
Yeah.
I think has just a little over 200 students.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
And I think that I don't know how big they want to get, but just for perspective, I went to DAP, which is University of Cincinnati, and there were probably more than 200 students in the design department alone.
oh wow.
I mean, I think my whole section of industrial design was 45 students. So if you
Oh, wow.
imagine, if you extrapolate that out to all the different design majors and
Yeah.
architecture and all that stuff, I mean, that we were talking about a couple thousand people just in that college alone.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so I was in a much bigger university. I think both of you were, you were in a smaller school, Jen, probably isn't.
Brockport,
Yeah.
SUNY Brockport was smaller. RIT was pretty big.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
It was either they're known for their engineering and their photography, but they also have a very good different art programs. Like I told you, I looked into getting a graduate program there at for glass, because they didn't have that when I was there. But it's last time I checked, it was $60,000 a year, and it was like a 3 year program. And it was just, I don't know, I can't afford that.
No,
but they also have a very good art community around that school.
But so people that were there in the school at that time, tell us your stories. I know there's a couple that are listeners of the show. So let's, if you saw anything weird, I never saw anything weird or out of note when I was there, but it seems like I never see anything weird or out of note. So I don't know that that maybe I count. Because I have not really seen anything strange in any of those places, but maybe I have seen stuff that's strange and I just didn't notice it.
That could be.
You're.
I don't always notice ghosts when they walk into rooms either. I think they're just a normal person until like something goes,
something
hey, maybe you want to go look at that. maybe you want to go look at that. And I'm like, oh, that's a dead person walking through. They don't have legs.
Mhm.
Or they're just legs. That's happened before too. At
Really?
IU. So that's another fun story for future campus episode.
Well, that's exciting. And
Yeah, talk
so,
about big universities.
Legs?
Indiana University, big, one of the Big 10. I don't even
mhm.
know how many people were in my majors at the time.
and
So,
and
on to
we had
Judith.
Yeah, and we had so many people tell us stories that we are going to tell more of them as we go. We had stories from a bunch of different art schools, from CCAD, Savannah College
Good.
of Art and Design. Many people told us their experiences they had, so we will be using those in a future episode.
Yeah.
But this is from Judith, who also went to the Art Academy, and I'm assuming it was at the old campus. I think, was it the mid '90s when it switched over? I
It was
believe
2005.
2005. That would explain it,
Oh,
because
wow.
I took classes in the early 2000s, so it was right before the changeover.
Okay.
But this is from Judith, and I will read it. And this is interesting, and I'd like to hear your all feedback about this story, because it's kind of a little bit different, but maybe it's because the space was conducive to this. But it says the Art Academy had a yoga teacher come to the lounge at lunchtime. I had never practiced before. She had us lie down and walked us through visual mental instructions while our eyes were closed. Then we did different poses, exercises for maybe 45 minutes. To end the class, she had us lie down flat and again walked us through mental vision pictures, walking through the woods, sound of water, smells of fresh air, etc. Then relaxing us. My quote soul, close quote, left my body from the top of my head. I was actually looking down on the room of everyone. Before what I call my soul left my body to float away, I freaked out as I thought I would never get back in. I stopped the imagery. After I talked with the instructor and was apparently white as a ghost, she was more impressed that I was able to achieve this experience. She said people work for years to achieve this out of body experience and never do. It scared the crap out of me. I never went back to her classes. I thought maybe this is what catatonic people did and couldn't get their souls back. I was not on drugs, not smoking anything. It was very real and I'll never forget it. I can visualize leaving my body, but my feet were still in my head. Not solid state, but really believe it was my soul.
Judith, my dear, you astral projected. That is what an astral projection is.
Yep.
And if you got more practiced, you can actually go visit different locations and come back to your body. It's I'm not surprised, because those are meditative parts of the yoga practice, and that's actually, I think, originally what yoga was meant to do, was as a form of meditation and the spiritual practice of it. So nice. And yes, it's quite alarming when it happens. From what I heard, it's just like suddenly you're looking at the room from a completely different vantage point. You could see your own body. You think you've died. Some people have had out of body experiences when they have been in emergency rooms and watched themselves. It's not exactly the same thing, because this is through a meditative way. So you're going to always come back safely. When you pop out during an out of body experience during an emergency, we hope that whoever is working on your body fixes you so you can come back. So it's more of a temporary thing. But yeah, that's really cool.
It's interesting. So, if you do this sort of meditation, are you better off with somebody that's experienced with this? I mean,
Yeah.
are there dangers? I mean, she was extremely concerned not being able to get back in. Is that a possibility? I mean, we don't want to scare Judith, but should you be in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing more?
Yeah. So you're working more in Eastern philosophy when you're
Hmm.
talking about this sort of thing. So um, Hinduism and parts of Buddhism and some Taoism believe in being able to just kind of have your spirit leave and astral project into other things. And more of, I've talked with yoga instructors and yogis who, and I just forgot, Kundalini, I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
is the term.
It
Um,
is the term.
Yeah, and that practice of yoga goes more into the spiritual side of it, which, like I said, yoga is not a health fitness thing. It is a form of meditation for an entire group of people. and it has only become this way in the past 40 years. More of a not entertainment, but I guess entertainment is for some people, exercising and ways to sell pants. But sorry, I'm just thinking of the sportswear part of Target, and it's all yoga pants. Anyway,
They're very comfy.
they are. Are they going to help you astral project and get meditative?
Maybe if they're
I
special
guess
pants.
if they're really comfy and kind of silky.
Although,
too,
have you
sure.
ever taken a yoga class? Because when they have you do the positions, you could be showing off all your bits if you're not wearing the correct clothes.
Hey, you're not supposed to be staring at other
Sorry.
people's bits. You're
Well, no,
supposed to be meditating.
I'm not staring at anybody's bits. It happened to me because I took a class and my clothes were loose fitting and my shirt ended up around my neck when I was in the downward dog position.
Well,
That's why I never went back, because I was very embarrassed.
So instead of astrally projecting, is there a word? Your clothing projected or something?
projected.
It's like, what the shit? I'm not doing
Projectile
it.
clothing.
Yeah. There's
Oh,
gotta
this
be a
didn't stick
term.
to the back.
Oh, you're so red, Jen.
Sorry.
So yeah,
So much editing.
yeah. So
Sorry.
this is off the top of my head, but the Kundalini practice of yoga meditation is the more spiritual side, and the practitioners can help you through astral projection and meditation. Meditation is very nice. It helps you relax. I do like to meditate. I've done it with Zen Buddhists before, but not. I have done yoga, but I haven't done it with a yogi. And yeah, it's that can happen. I would suggest doing it with people who know the practice. You don't necessarily have to have taken anything or sniffed anything, or no drugs need to be ingested in any way for it to happen. You just need to relax to a certain point. And yeah, I don't know about necessarily things you could run into that would make it dangerous on the spiritual side. That would be something for an actual yogi or Buddhist monk to be able to express. So, oh, are you thinking about your shirt again, Jen?
No, my cat just fell.
Oh,
She was sticking herself in a bag. She's being bad. Hold on.
I'm talking about spiritual advisors, and Jen just lost it, and I was so confused.
everybody's a little slap happy today.
Apparently, I swear
We've had
this
some
is
wild
water.
We've had some wild
She-
animal episodes.
I could hear her getting in it because it was crinkling, and then it
Yeah.
fell over off of a box, and she just went meow. God damn it, cat.
So sad.
Well, on that note, we probably should and this is a call out, like we could do another episode on Art Academy just on if people have experiences, particularly in the old building. We might even, if somebody wants to come on and talk about it, we
Yeah.
could.
Old and new, because that new
Yes.
building is not actually new.
No, it's just retrofitted.
Yeah, as one of the articles I read, it was the old building versus the older building. It's like neither one of these are new buildings. So yes, if you have a story, please email us to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com or share it to our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts.
Or even record something like Laura did. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's excellent. And then we're not
Cool.
tripping over
Yeah.
anyone's names or acronyms or t-shirts in yoga positions. So,
Anyway, on that note,
yes, you can follow us at Sin Cabinet and Curio on Twitter and at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram. Please join our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts. Don't forget to like and review the podcast. If you've gotten this far, congratulations. You truly are a trooper who doesn't mind us giggling, random back sound effects of small children and pets interrupting this episode. So yay, gold star for you. And I'm Kat Cloco for Christina Wald and Jen Kohler. Good night and stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.